Hi, and welcome to part two of my PowerShell Selenium tutorial series. In the last part, we've found out how to set up Selenium, set up our folder directory, install the web drivers, the Chrome web driver, and then we figured out how to launch a Chrome window and then go to the Google page. So what we're going to be doing today is just doing some navigation. So I'm going to actually show you guys how we navigated to the Google page and also how to parse through a page and how to start automating web pages. And we're actually going to automate two tasks today. We're going to do a simple Google search and actually interact with the suggestions. And then we are also going to be using a Selenium test website to fill out a form. So let's go ahead and let's get started here. I'm actually just going to comment this line of code from our last video out, just because I don't want Google Chrome to actually quit out here. So we are actually going to launch this, and we're going to get a Google window here. So I'm just going to minimize this. Make sure you do not close this command prompt window. But we do have a Google Chrome window now open. So what we want to do for automating a Google search is we want to be able to type into this box here, which is going to show up like this. And then we also want to be able to parse these suggestions here. So how do we do that is actually pretty simple with Selenium. So the first thing we're going to want to do is open up the dev tools in Google Chrome. If you don't know how to do that, that is going to be F12. Or if you want to do it a little bit of a simpler way, you could simply right click and then inspect, and it will automatically open it as well. So what we want to do is we actually want to get this text box here. So we're going to click on inspect again here, and we actually see, so when you like scroll through these, all these options, or like hover over top of these different HTML elements, it's actually going to highlight which HTML element you are selecting. So we want this input, because input means it's a text box. So this is what we want to interact with, and we want to be able to send keyboard entry to it. So I actually disconnected my Google Chrome window from Selenium. So I'm actually just going to go ahead and close this one and close this by accident here. And let me just relaunch this. And let me not click on this little X here. I don't think that this would actually disconnect it, but I'm not 100% positive. So just to make it nice and easy, we are going to just restart here. So we've inspected, we have found this input class here, and let me just zoom in for you guys. So we have this input class here for the Google page. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to right click on it and then hover over the copy option. And then you're going to see there is a copy XPath. There's also going to be a copy full XPath. We are just looking for the copy XPath. You're going to click on that, and then we're going to go back to our PowerShell script. And then we are going to reference our Chrome window by doing Chrome. And then we're going to do dot find element by XPath here. And this will actually take in a string, and you guessed it, we just paste in our XPath here, and this is going to be the element. So if we actually highlight this line here, and we execute just this line, we actually get a input here. We get text is blank. It's enabled. We get like the X and Y locations. So we get quite a bit of information. We can actually get more information than just that. But for this one, we just really need to grab that. And then what we're going to do is we are actually going to set this to a variable. We are actually going to set this to search box. And this is just to simplify it. You don't need to assign it to a variable, but I will, just to kind of shorten the lines of code a little bit so you guys can see it better. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do search box dot send keys. And this actually takes in a string. Now this is the string you actually want to send over. So we're actually going to just send ABC. So I'm actually just going to pull this over here, and we are just going to close this, and we are going to run these 2 lines. So as you can see, ABC went on to the Google search box, and we now have the related searches. So now what we want to do is we actually want to grab these related search items. So once again, if you right click on it and hit inspect, and then right click on it and hit inspect again, I always hit inspect twice. This way you get right to it. So let me just zoom out here just to make it easier for me to see for now. So here we can see, once again, we get a whole bunch of these classes here. So here's one entry, another entry, another entry, another entry, and they all have this entry called SBCT, it seems like. Some of them also have the SBRE, but all of them have SBCT. So, and that's a class. So that's going to be a CSS selector. And let me just zoom in for you guys so you guys can actually see it. So here we are. We can actually see class SBCT, SBCT here, SBCT here. Some of them have SBRE, but not all of them. So what we're going to want to do is, after the search box, we are going to do chrome.find element by class name, and we are going to do SBCT. And we are going to do find elements by class name, so we get multiple back. All right, so let's see what we got back from that. So we got a whole bunch of tag name LIs, and we can see the text here. So we can see that the last one is blank, which that's okay. But we can see here that we get ABC Breaking News, ABC Spark, ABC Song for Children. So we're working from the bottom up here. And then we can see if we go to the first element here, we get ABC Yeah, which is our first element. So we can actually get all the suggestions here. So what you can do with this, now this takes away a little bit of automation because we're giving, at this point, what we're going to be doing is giving the user the choice to pick what they want to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to do items equals, and then the find elements SBCT. And then what we're going to do is we are going to do a I equals 0, because this is just going to be our index counter here. Let me just zoom in a little bit more for you guys. Hopefully that'll be a little bit better. And then what we're going to want to do is we're going to do for each item in items, we are going to do a write host. And what we're going to do is we're going to write the I value, and we are going to write the item dot text. And the way that I got item dot text is we see that each of these items here has a text property, and the text property has that auto suggestion in it. And then the I is going to be our index, and then every time we are actually just going to want to increment I by 1. And then if we actually run this here, so here we actually get all of our suggestions in a list from 0 to 10 with all of our options. And if it has a subtext, it will also have it here. So if we just bring this back again to the side and we have our Google window open here, which if I actually just kind of take away the values here. So there we go. So we can see that we can see everything from our suggestions now. So that is awesome. So what we can do now with this, and we've done this in previous PowerShell tutorial videos, is we have a choice. And we're going to do a read host. And we're going to give a prompt of what suggestion do you want to use? And then we are actually just going to go ahead and do items choice dot click. So if we do this here, and we are just going to actually pick ABC World News Tonight. So we're going to pick one. So let's put in one here. And then if we just highlight this without the click, we get that it is ABC World News Tonight here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to do this so you guys can see it happening in real time. We are going to go and we are going to go ahead and click on it. And that should bring us there. Unless I do have to do this here. And then we're just going to do one. Okay, so that seems to not be working as I had expected it to here. So give me one moment. We're just going to see if this has to be a capital. And let me just close out of this here, close out of this here. This is the thing with Selenium. It is quite finicky at times, but definitely once it actually is working, it does work very, very well. So if we do SBCT, so there we are. So we got to ABC News, and that is perfect. So let's actually just try to execute it one last time here. So if we run all of these, and then we have our ABC, and then we have our choice here, and then we are going to go ahead and pick one. We do get our option. Perfect. And then if you guys want to see, because you guys do see ABC News and not ABC World News Tonight, if we actually do it ourselves here and we click on ABC World News Tonight, it actually just puts in ABC News. So it actually did exactly what we wanted to. We got to our search results, and then you'd be able to do some other stuff here if you wanted to automate Google searches. Now, what we're going to want to do is we are going to want to do one other thing in this video, which is actually going to be automating a form. So let me just go ahead and get the web page here for the web page that we want to automate, which is actually a page that is actually recommended to test Selenium on. So it does work very well. I'm going to be putting a link to this form in the description of the video if you guys want to follow along. So the form is pretty simple. It just has a first name, last name, gender, years of experience, a date, some checkboxes, a drop-down box, an upload image, and a download file. Those are the things that we are going to be showing today. And then in the next video, we are going to do the fun example of the cookie clicker game. So let's get started with this one here. So we are actually going to go ahead, and what we're going to do is I'm going to leave this code up here. And all we are going to do is we are actually going to navigate to a different page. So what we are going to do is we're going to do Chrome dot navigate, open and close parentheses, and we're going to do go to URL and open and close parentheses. And in the URL, we are going to put the link for the form here. So that should work. And we're just going to close this here. And now all we're going to do is we're going to launch all of this, which should do all the different steps. And we have to pick something here. So what we're going to do is, there you go. We're just going to use a 1 here just to be safe. And I'm just going to do a start sleep here just so it waits a couple milliseconds here. We're just going to wait 15 milliseconds just from the delay. When I'm not recording, it usually works right away, but with the delay, it's just taking a little bit longer. So all we're going to do is, now that we are on this form, we are again once ahead, just going to go ahead and inspect. Once again, like the first time you click inspect, it doesn't really bring you to the right place. So I like to click it twice. And here we are going to do, we are going to select these a slightly different way because I don't want to show you guys just how to select an item using XPath. I want to show you guys doing a couple different ways. So for this text box here, we can actually see the input name. We can see input, and then the name of the input is first name. So we know that we can do Chrome dot find element, and we can do find element by tag name or by name. This one is actually going to be by name. By tag name is like A or LI. It's more of the selector. So what we're going to do is we're going to do by name here. And we are going to do first name. And what we're going to do is we're not even going to store this into a variable. We are going to go ahead and we are going to send keys to it right away. And we are going to put in Richard here. So if I just pull this over to the side and we just send this over, there you are. Richard pops up on the side here. So we know that it does actually work here. So that is actually super perfect. So let's go ahead and let's try the last name here. So here we actually see that the input is just last name. All we are going to do is we are going to actually just copy this whole line, and we are just going to change first name to last name here. And we are just going to put in my last name here. And there you are. Now, because I reran that line, it put in my name here. So that is A-okay. Now what we could do is we can actually select our gender here, either male or female in this case for this form. So we are just going to inspect it. And here we can actually see that we are actually given an ID. So let's actually select it by the ID because that is a unique identifier on its own. And for this one, it is sex-0. So let's do Chrome dot find element by ID, and then sex-0. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do a dot click because we want to actually click the radio button. So if we run this and we look on the side here, and it seems that maybe it did not find it. And I know that that should actually work here. So what we are going to go ahead and do once again, I don't know why it does that for some reason. I'm not 100% positive. If you guys know why, definitely feel free to leave a comment in the bottom. I find that sometimes after a little while, it just kind of disconnects a little bit. And I'm not really too sure why. So if we run this here, we get to our page. And then we're just going to scroll down, make sure you guys can actually see what's going on. And then we run these three. There we are. Mail gets selected. As you saw, we didn't really change anything. We just closed the browser and reopened it. If something doesn't work, I would suggest trying that out first. And then we have the years of experience. So let's just inspect that here. So you guys could definitely see a pattern. It's just a lot of inspecting the page, seeing what you actually would want to click on, and then scripting it that way. So for us, it'll be XP1, and then we have a date here. Now with dates, it's actually pretty fun because we can use the getDate method. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up a variable here called date, and we are going to use the getDate commandlet. And we are going to put a format of year, all lowercase, uppercase for month, and then day for the date of the month. If you did lowercase m, you're going to get minutes of the current time, so definitely do an uppercase M here. And then what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and we are going to inspect this date picker. This date picker isn't really a date picker, it's just a text box for some reason. But it does have an ID of date picker here. Let me just zoom in once again for you guys. So we do have an ID of date picker. So let's go ahead and let's copy this. We're going to remove the dot click and we're going to remove this and put date picker. Then we're going to do send keys and we're going to send over the date. And now if we run these two lines, and there we are, 2021, 8/29, which is today's date. Well, today's date, the date that I'm filming this video. Probably not the date that you guys are going to be watching this, but that is how you would do it, and that will always automate it to pick today's date. So that's just a little added little bonus there. Now these checkboxes are going to be the same thing as the radio buttons. You can just really select them by the ID and click on them. So if we do that here, and for this one, it's profession -1. And then this one down here, which is tool -2. So a lot of times with forms, you'll probably have quite an easy time to automate these. When you're getting into automating web pages, where there could be a lot of dynamic data, that's when it definitely gets a little bit more complicated. But so far, I feel like the Selenium is definitely pretty simple to use. But like I said, it could get complicated depending on what you're automating. So now we have this continents, and continents is actually a drop-down menu. So we're actually going to go ahead and inspect it. So we can see that we have a select class, and we can expand it here. So, and we have all the options. So we have Asia, Europe, Africa, Australia, South America, North America, and Antarctica. Now we want to select North America here. So I'm actually going to do a right click, copy, and copy XPath. And we are going to do Chrome dot find element by XPath, paste that in here, and then do a dot click, and then run that. And there we are. It selected North America. Let me just zoom in for you guys, just so you guys can probably see it a little bit better. There we are. And now we have an upload image, which in our case is going to be something that looks like this, where we can select a file. Now, what most people think about doing, and I've done this mistake as well, is I right click on the button, I go inspect, I see this here, I'm like, okay, it's a class of input file, ID of photo. So let's use the ID, and we're going to do chrome.find element by ID, and then we're going to put photo, and then we're going to do a dot click to get that menu to pop up. And then you go to run it, and it actually errors out because it says that it's an invalid argument. What you actually want to do for these is go to File Upload, and we are going to create a variable called File Upload, and we are going to set it to that element. Again, you don't need to do the variable. This is just for me for easier to show you all the code that I type out. So we're going to do File Upload dot send keys. Now this seems kind of weird because it's not a text box, but what you're going to do is you're actually going to send the keys to a file location. So let's just open up a file here. Let's do downloads here, and I should have some files here. So we have this PowerShell Selenium setup thumbnail here. Let's go ahead and let's copy the path of that here. And there we are, we have the path. And now if we run these two, we actually see in our, oops, didn't mean to click on the upload. So we can actually see that the PowerShell Selenium.png is actually in there. So that is pretty wicked. So if ever you guys want to upload a file, it is literally just sending the keys and putting the file path to the file you want to upload. Now, similarly, you can download files also using Selenium. So here we have the option to click here to download a file. If we click on it, it brings us to the GitHub page, but we actually want to download this YAML file. So what we actually want to do is we are going to go ahead, right click on it, inspect it, and then we get that it is an href. There's not really too much detail. So in those cases, what I really like to do is I really just kind of right click on it, go to copy XPath because there's no ID or name that I can really easily reference it. So I'm going to do download equals Chrome find element by XPath and paste that XPath in there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to select that here. And then we're going to look at our download option. So here is our download option. So we do have a tag. It says click here to download file, which is exactly what we see here. So that's great. So what we want to do now is we actually want to download this file, but in here we don't see where the link is. Like we don't know where to get this file from. So right now we are kind of clueless. We can click on it, but we know that's not going to download the file. It's just going to bring us to the web page. So what we want to do is we want to do download URL. Now this is, we're going to set that as a variable. We're going to set that equal to download dot get attribute, and we're going to get the get attribute of href. Now we know in HTML that the href attribute is the actual URL to the link to the page that it's going to link to, or in this case, the file. So if we actually just run this here, unless I didn't run this here, that could be the problem, but that should actually work. So once again here, I'm actually just going to close out of this here, and we are going to go ahead and we are just going to run this once again. And then we are going to run all of these here. We're going to see how fast this actually kind of fills out. So here we see everything's filled out. North America's selected. We see the Selenium WebDriver selected. We can see our file is there. And let's see what our download URL is now. And we actually do see it here. Let me just move it up here a little bit. So we can see that it is a GitHub and then it is a conf.yaml. Now what we want to do is we want to download this file. Now that we have the URL, we can actually use a PowerShell commandlet. So invoke REST method. We're going to do a URI, and we are going to set this to the download URL, and then our out file. Now this is where you want to save it to. So we are going to save it to our C users fear R, which is my username, which is kind of an embarrassing username, but that's okay. In downloads, and we are going to save that to tutorial.yaml. And we are just going to remove this and put it at the end here. So there we are. So we have that here. So if we just execute this, there it is. And there is our tutorial file here, right here. So if I just zoom in on it for you guys can see that I just downloaded this. It is about 7:46 here. And if we click on it, the file is actually completely downloaded. So that is awesome. We downloaded that file entirely, which is actually going to be the entire HTML page, I believe. But that is okay because that is perfectly fine. I believe it's just the YAML page, but I could be wrong. But that is what the website wanted us to do. It basically just kind of makes you download that URL, and then you can go ahead and download any type of file, especially if the file was a .exe or something. It would be a lot easier to kind of see that there. So that is pretty much everything that you really need to know about the different navigations. So really, what you really got to, the key things to take away from this video is really the F12 and then the right-click inspect in Google Chrome, inspecting it, copying the XPath if you can't find an ID or a name of an element in the HTML, and then going ahead and either clicking on it or sending the keys depending on the situation. And that's pretty much it. So we've seen how to automate Google searches and using the suggested searches, and also we fully automated a form. So in the next video, we're actually going to take this a little bit more on the more fun side. I'm probably going to name them about the same. This is going to be a little bit more in depth than the next video. The next video is really just taking a game and clicking a whole bunch of times on a cookie. This video will definitely be more useful than that one. But definitely it is a fun thing to do, and we can maybe figure out some different options. I'll open up the comment section to like add in if people want to add in what they've added to their scripts to like automatically purchase the upgrades or something. We're going to get like a nice base started, and then you guys could just kind of go crazy on it. So make sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell to be notified when that next video comes out. And I will see you on the next video.